No buses from the southern border expected to arrive here in Chicago today. Second day in a row without migrants arriving by bus, and it comes just days after Governor Pritzker reached out directly to Texas Governor Greg Abbott. In a letter, Pritzker urged Governor Abbott to pause drop-offs this past weekend due to the winter storm. Abbott replied that Texas will continue to send migrants until the president secures the border.
Governor J.B. Pritzker says the state of Illinois has spent $328 million to help manage Chicago's migrant crisis, and he's calling on the federal government to pitch in.
It's not just about money, though. Frankly, we do need reimbursement for the dollars that have already been put forward because we've done an awful lot already without a lot of help from the federal government.
Tonight, officials warning Chicago is approaching a breaking point. Tents full of desperate migrants lining Chicago's iconic Lakeshore Drive. Migrant shelters inside O'Hare Airport. A total of 17,000 migrants showing up since last August, and officials expect 1,200 per day to keep coming.
New York's governor yesterday requested more than $2 billion to provide housing and health care for the roughly 70,000 migrants currently in the state, many of them sent by bus from Texas.
It's the right thing to do for the migrants and for the city of New York. Continue focusing on securing work authorization and put the migrants and asylum workers to work.
Tens of thousands of migrants continue to be bused from the southern border to Chicago, and the Illinois governor has had enough. J.B. Pritzker says there is, quote, an untenable situation in his state. The Democrat sent a letter to President Biden outlining what the federal government should do to mitigate the growing migrant crisis, not just in Chicago, but also in other U.S. cities.
We cannot continue to falsely pit communities against one another.
Deep emotional wounds coming to the surface.
As Black people who have been hurt continuously by the city and country it loves, it ain't our responsibility to take care of everybody else.
To the migrant crisis in Chicago now, the state of Illinois says it will temporarily set up hotel rooms to safely house migrant families. At the request of the city of Chicago, the Illinois Department of Human Services made 30 hotel rooms available yesterday, with more rooms for up to 200 people coming online today.
Now the migrant situation only intensifying amid these Arctic temps.
And now Governor Pritzker offering millions of dollars to suburbs that agree to house new arrivals.
Pritzker says he has concerns about the $29 million base camp planned to house the migrants currently living in police stations, but the governor didn't publicly explain what his concerns are.
With a lack of existing buildings to put people in, I know the city has looked at this as one of its options.
Now Chicago is building sprawling tent camps to get migrants off the streets of places like this ahead of the cold winter months. Democratic Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker slamming President Biden for not doing enough, writing, the federal government's lack of intervention and coordination at the border has created an untenable situation for Illinois.
In Illinois, the governor has announced $17 million in new funds for Chicago's suburbs that agreed to house migrants. Hundreds have been sleeping on city buses to keep warm. Many arrived wearing only shorts and T-shirts. Migrant crossings at the U.S. southern border hit a record high last month.
It's unclear when that meeting will be rescheduled. To date, Chicago has welcomed nearly 35,000 migrants from the southern border.
Chicago has received more than 15,000 migrants, and not just at the direction of Republican governors. As WGN Investigates reported earlier this week, the Democratic mayor of El Paso, Texas, chartered 2 buses of migrants to Chicago last weekend.
Today, President Biden is meeting with congressional leaders, urging them to pass new border security funds, part of a $106 billion funding request that also includes money for the wars in Ukraine and Gaza.